Welcome to the most incredible marketing show ever. The show where each week a panel of respected marketing strategists, all trained and certified by the legendary Dan Kennedy, share their wisdom, experience, strategies, and insights on how to use Dan Kennedy's philosophy on business and marketing in any type of business, and that you can apply to your business immediately. Here's your host, Craig Valine.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Craig Valine, and this is the most incredible marketing show ever. Today, we're going to talk about what this podcast or this show is all about and how it came to be. First, I'd like to welcome our guests. Today, we have Steve Sipress. Say hello, Steve.
Hello.
We have Dan Cricks from Cleveland, Ohio.
Hi.
We have Ben Thole from North Carolina.
Hey, everybody.
Richelle Shaw originally from Las Vegas, but living in Riverside, California.
Oh, hi. Hey.
Becky Auer from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And Jupiter, Florida.
Joe Norcott from the south part of Massachusetts.
Hello, everybody.
Chuck Trautman from Arizona.
Hello.
And Mark Imperial from just outside Chicago, Illinois.
Hey, everybody.
All right, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourself and say a little bit about your background and how you got involved in this thing. But let me just give a basic introduction. So we are all former certified independent business advisors for Dan Kennedy and Bill Glazer, or Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle. And not too long ago, I was looking for a way to get motivated and to sharpen my skills. So I said, who do I know that I could surround myself with to be my best in my business? And I thought, the independent business advisors from Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle. So I reached out and we created this OG IBA Mastermind, and we've been doing it for several months now, and it's been going great. But one of the questions that we asked during that meeting together each month is, how couldn't we collaboratively come together and use our experience as independent business advisors, certified and trained by Dan Kennedy and Bill Glazer, and make a difference and impact those in business, entrepreneurs, small business owners, professionals, etc. So that's how this came to be. The title of this show, the most incredible marketing show ever, came from an irresistible offer presented by Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle. And the headline rang, why would Dan Kennedy, a grumpy marketing genius, give you $613.91 of pure money-making information, including 2 months of his Elite Gold membership for free with no strings attached, even though he won't even go to lunch for free with anyone? The answer below may surprise you. And just say maybe, and you'll receive the most incredible free gift ever. So the most incredible free gift ever, which was our ticket to getting people to take a chance on us and get involved with, number one, Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle, but number two, our local chapters, where we facilitated group monthly meetings and really built our business. So rumor has it, Dan, that you were one of the first IBAs to sign up for the program back in 2006. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what chapter you represented, and why you got involved with that program in the first place.
So many would call me a serial entrepreneur. I've been in business for myself for a number of years, a number of different businesses, bricks and mortar, and so on and so forth. I'm from Northeast Ohio, basically the Cleveland area. And like I said, during that time of owning several different businesses, I stumbled along across Dan Kennedy and began using the marketing information that I learned from Dan. And it worked really, really well. It was a game changer for me. It changed my business. It changed my life. And I had others starting to ask me, hey, what are you doing? Will you help me? If I pay you, will you help me have some of the same kind of success that you're having? And so I said yes to a few of them. Wasn't too sure about what I wanted to do, but it was kind of clunky. And then when Glazer Kennedy rolled out this IBA program, I actually got it before everyone else by accident. I happened to be reading it on the plane on the way to the event where they were going to launch it. and went in the room before it was started and told the guy in charge, I want to join, I'm in. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. They weren't allowed to talk about it yet because it hadn't been launched. And I said, well, okay, but I want in, whatever it is that you can't talk about. He said, well, who are you? So I told him, and he nicknamed me Cleveland from then on. And so he basically said, you're the first on the list, if there is any such thing. And again, they weren't allowed to talk about it because they wanted it all to come out when it was launched. So that's how I got started. For me, when I saw this, it was a no-brainer, a chance to work with Dan Kennedy, to be trained by Dan Kennedy, and to be mentored by Dan Kennedy, and basically be a business partner with Dan Kennedy. It was a no-brainer. I didn't have to think twice about it. Like I said, I couldn't get off the plane quick enough to get there to tell them I wanted to do it. And it was everything I had hoped. The things that I had been doing with these other businesses beforehand, this now gave me a real structured way and showed me how to leverage that a lot better and to be able to do it on a bigger scale.
Awesome. Awesome. Richelle, you were one of the first people in 2006. Tell us a bit about what chapter you represented and why you got involved in that opportunity.
Well, let me say I was not the one saying, take my money. It's like, how much? I have to pay you how much? But I was excited to see it. I had already built a successful business. For many years, I was the only female African-American public utility owner in the nation. I owned a telephone company in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I built it to over $100 million. Lost it after 9/11 and rebuilt back my $1 million business in about 5 months. But part of that was I was kicking and screaming, right, the whole way. So I was constantly in the bookstore, constantly reading. I thought I needed marketing help because I didn't know what I was doing. And I got a book by Dan. And I started reading it and said, oh, shit. Oops. Oh, darn.
It's okay. Foul language accepted.
All right, good. This guy is different. This guy is really different. He's different than anything else I was reading. They kept using these big, words that I was like, what the hell does that mean? Even though I went to UCLA, like I should have known what it meant, but I wasn't. I was a history major. And the way that Dan described it, the way he laid it all out, it made a ton of sense. And I said, I would love to teach people this. And after I begrudgingly gave the payment, it changed the trajectory of my life. So it was just fun. Loved it. Love it. I think I met Dan the very first time and Dan Cricks up there in the corner and cussed the very first time. And we became instant friends. And
I think that's how we all became friends with you.
Right. They were like a fellow cusser. We love her. But I knew I was in. So I ran the chapter in Las Vegas for, a long time. Let's just say a long time.
Yeah. Awesome. Becky, you were a part of that original crew, that class. Tell us where you were and what chapter you ran and how you got involved.
Yeah. So hi to everybody who might be out there watching. Pleased to meet you. So I started with the IBA program, Independent Business Advisor program, in the same time as Dan, I think maybe a month after him, but really kicked it off in 2006. And I'm still running the meetings. Back then, I was running them all in person in Pittsburgh. And so I would say, and I'm sure Dan will correct me if I'm wrong, but I have really helped thousands of entrepreneurs with a No BS masterclass and a mastermind group. So I just counted up before this because I was interested myself. So I have consecutively run that meeting and my mastermind meeting. So over 427 meetings, seminar, boot camps, workshops to help small business owners grow their business and get more leads is really what it comes down to. And Dan Kennedy was a huge influence because I had started 3 multi-million-dollar businesses. And when I went to look for help with marketing my last one, it was a restaurant. that I took from $0 to $6.5 million in just under a year. But I had never owned a restaurant, but I knew how to market. But I found a guy named Paul Hartunian who led me to Rory Fatt, who led me to Dan Kennedy, and I drank the Kool-Aid, as they say. So I found my people, and Richelle and I met in a bar, having a little cocktail, and we shared some wings. So I don't know if she cursed at me or not, but like it was all good. So we've been friends ever since.
So you
And yeah, and so after COVID, I went all online, and now I share between Pittsburgh. I built a tiny house up there, and I have a home down here in Jupiter, Florida, and so I do everything virtual now. So that's kind of my story. I actually think I have a picture of Dan Kennedy smiling with me, and I would say to everybody else on this, the 9 of us here, that I bet you don't have that. So
that's a collector's item.
That's a collector's item. But he has been instrumental in everything that I learned about the restaurant and how to grow that. And I sold that in 2010. But I listened. I just listened. I was a good student and I love to teach. And so that's how I got into it and grew a list to over 63,000 unique individuals, which was enough to fill the Pittsburgh Penguins arena at the time. And so, you just take everything that you learn and apply it. That's the main point. And it's just taken me to places I never thought would happen. So I am forever indebted to Dan. And so it's been a joy and a pleasure and a privilege really to teach these small business owners what I know.
Awesome. Steve, tell us, you came in about 2008. What made you get involved with it, and where was your chapter?
My chapter at the time, I was living just outside the Chicago, Illinois area. Now I'm down here in the beautiful Phoenix, Scottsdale, Arizona area. But I first found Dan when I was consulting to a company brought me in because the phone was ringing off the hook. They said too many leads, but they couldn't sell them. It was a law firm, and they had the lawyers trying to sell to new clients. They didn't know what the heck they were doing. And so they brought me in, and it was one day that I looked into the office of the guy who was in charge of the marketing and who hired me. And on his desk was this ridiculous bobblehead. And I was like, what is with the grown man in a suit on a bull? What is up with that? And he just said to me, how do you think we're getting all these leads and the phone is ringing off the hook? The guy is a marketing genius. I go to this event down in Phoenix called the Super Conference, and that's where I got everything put together. And I said, okay, that's great. And then I forgot about it for years, like a fool, because I thought like, oh, that's the marketing and I'm the sales guy. Yeah. And it was years later when I had my consulting company, it was struggling. I was really great at giving good advice. Like others here, I love to teach. My mom was a school teacher, and she drilled it into my sister and I when we were young. You have the obligation when you learn something to teach it to somebody else. So I've always loved to teach something I learned. And in this case, I was teaching and consulting on sales, but I didn't have a thriving consulting company. I wasn't attracting the right clients. I was attracting all the wrong clients. Everything was a mess. And so I was searching, like Richelle said, going to bookstores and looking around. And I found this book by Dan Kennedy. And I said, that's the guy. That's the ridiculous grown man in a suit on a bull bobblehead. That's the marketing genius. I got to grab his stuff. So I did. And then I said, I got to make a beeline to this super conference thing when I got the invitation, because I filled out the form in the book for the most incredible free gift ever. And then I made a beeline for that super conference, and I went right to the back table. I told my beautiful wife, Michelle, honey, I'm going to buy the Dan Kennedy programs to get going with this stuff. She said, don't spend too much money at that event, which is something I'm sure no one else has ever heard from their spouse. And so for anyone watching, so I said, no, I'm just going to buy the few sales, but I made a beeline to the back table. I bought the bundle of the 3 sales training products of Dan Kennedy, but right there was the guy behind the booth who ran this whole IBA program, who Dan Cricks was talking about, who denied it, but now it was a couple of years later, no one was denying it. And he looked at my name badge and said somewhere in Chicago, and he said, hey, we need an independent business advisor in the Chicago area. I said, I don't even know what that is. What's it all about? Who, me? What are you talking about? I'm just here to buy some sales stuff and go away. And as Richelle pointed out, maybe it was a 4-day event, but like the next day or the day after, I'm forking over, hello, honey? Oh my goodness. I don't even know. but it is clearly over 4 figures that I put money
Clearly.
credit card for this, that, and it's going to put together a whole new consulting business, and I'm going to be trained by Dan and mentored by Dan. And she's like, Dan who?
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a trouble, but a few months later, we had a thriving, started our chapter and started teaching business owners all throughout the Chicagoland area. And a few years later, I'm happy to say that I had built the largest chapter of all the nearly 100 chapters there were. And we had the most members and we had the most fun. And I would think that my chapter members made the most money. And so that's
Anyway, yes, you are a model of success, Steve, and we appreciate that. Hey, just for a moment, we're going to hear a message from our sponsor. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This episode of The Most Incredible Marketing Show Ever is sponsored by Dan Cricks, a.k.a. the Been There, Done That Marketing Coach, and Results Marketing. If you're looking for help growing your business and your profits, to get more information and free small business marketing and money-making info, go to www.greatresultsmarketing.com. That's www.greatresultsmarketing.com.
All right, we're back. Ben, when did you join the IBA program and what made you join?
Yeah, I think, well, I first got exposed to Dan Kennedy when he was doing the tours where they would bring in like big speakers that just brought in the crowds, and then he would sell like later in the day, sell from the back of the room, and I didn't pay too much attention to it. I'm like, who's this guy who's like trying to sell me something? Well, I came here to hear Colin Powell or something like that. And then I was in a corporate job at the time, but several years later I was doing website development for clients, trying to help them grow their businesses, looking around for marketing advice. Got exposed to everything that's in the Dan Kennedy world, started attending the conferences, and so it was around, I think, 2008 when I looked into getting the area in the Raleigh-Durham area of North Carolina, where I live. And the reason for doing so was twofold, and both selfish reasons. One is because I was working independently, solopreneur type stuff at the time. I wanted to be able to connect to like-minded business owners, entrepreneurs who were in the area, so I could bounce ideas off of them. And then also I wanted to just be connected to the other people, like the people you see on the screen, who was looking around and saw that they were independent business owners, and kind of what the cool kids were doing, and like Steve said, more connection to Dan Kennedy and direct access in his training. And so we started up a really solid group in the Raleigh-Durham area and got to have kind of the big monthly chapter meetings. Did a mastermind group off of that, and did that for a few years. And it had I got what I wanted out of it. I got the connections to local people that I still keep in touch with, and I got the connections to people here on the screen, and I'm still working with people that I connected with 15 years ago when setting up that group. Yeah.
Awesome. Mark Imperial, when did you get involved with the IBA program? I think it was 2009?
2008.
2008, okay.
Yeah, thanks, Craig.
What made you get involved, and what was your local chapter?
I ran the Chicago Southwest Suburbs chapter, and hey, I applied because it was free to apply. Free to apply. And Richelle, let's be clear now, there was no fee. It was a deposit.
It was a deposit.
It was a deposit. There was no fee. It was a great offer. So what motivated me to get involved and start the chapter was I wanted a shortcut. What I was doing at the time, to take you back a little bit, I was helping DJ entertainers like disc jockeys learn how to grow their businesses, advertise and market their businesses, and convert clients. So I was well known in the disc jockey industry, but I wasn't known anywhere else. Well, as I grew that business and coaching, I discovered that I fell in love with the marketing more than the actual doing of the thing. And, as you try to figure out what you want to be when you grow up, at first I thought I was going to be a DJ and an entertainer. And then as I became successful and discovered Dan Kennedy around 96 or 97, when he was at the United Center here in Chicago on a Peter Lowe success tour. That's when I first discovered him. And I started learning direct response marketing from him, and I applied it to my DJ business at the time, and it tripled, quadrupled, and I really clearly understood. He showed me marketing when it wasn't marketing that I thought I needed for the business. So that's why I fell in love with this, his style of marketing and teaching. And I decided to start teaching other entertainers, my peers, how to do their businesses better. And because as I'm lugging gear through hotels doing these events, I'm thinking, how sustainable is this? So I needed to figure out what my next adult job was going to be. And I fell in love with the marketing. So quite frankly, when I mastered that and got good at it, and then I figured out I could teach other people how to do it, and helping them get 6-figure and 7-figure successes in a very difficult cottage industry like the disc jockey industry, that's when I figured out this is my calling. This is what I actually love to do. Yeah. So when I took that seriously, I said, okay, I'm known in the disc jockey industry, but I'm not known anywhere else. And how can I be the DJ marketer guy trying to teach the butcher, baker, candlestick maker how to market their business? There's no credibility there. So learning from Dan and knowing that the quickest shortcut to that is association, frankly, it was a no-brainer. It's an investment that'll just return to me. It builds my credibility both in the DJ industry, and it opened the doors to local business owners in my community that I wanted to serve. So I was motivated to do it, to lead the chapter just as a shortcut through association, and the rest is history.
Yeah, amen. Excellent. Chuck, when did you get involved? In what chapter were you?
I got involved in 2008, and I'm in the Phoenix area. I live in Scottsdale, and it's been a great ride. I met Dan in 2000 at a Peter Lowe event as well. And at that time in my life, I've had good fortune to have good businesses. I had auto parts stores and a CarQuest distribution center. When I saw Dan at the Peter Lowe event, I had 6 golf equipment stores, and he got me thinking about more direct response marketing. And so I love that. And because I'm a Marine combat veteran, my language is very colorful. So Richelle and I got along great too. And I say that because one of the things I learned from Dan early was to be authentic. So me being authentic is not being afraid to say what's on my mind. And if I offend somebody, I really don't give a damn, because I'm trying to tell them the real truth. The other thing Dan taught me was repel to attract. And I believe that is a great strategy also. You can't please everybody, so let the people who love you follow you, and F everybody else, because they'll just be a drag upon you. So Dan has been a hell of a resource. I did chapter meetings for 131 months in a row, which was over 11 years if you do the math, and quit that because of COVID. I've had a mastermind since the first month of 2009. I have one member who's been with me the whole 15 years. I think that's a great experience for everyone to have. And during COVID, I didn't shut that down. We had one virtual meeting, and again, F it, we want to meet in public. So I made it, you could come if you wanted, but you could also come remote. So I had half the group showing up every month. And as soon as we got in the room, the mask came off, and we lived life like it should have been. So it's been a great ride, and I've enjoyed my association with you for the 15 years too. We're all kindred spirits here, and Dan's taught us a lot, and we all love sharing that with the rest of the world.
Awesome, Chuck. Joe, when did you get involved, and what chapter did you run, and what made you get involved?
Well, my background has been working with small businesses to first the financial side of the house, automating their financials and so forth, putting them into the software systems instead of using spreadsheets. But also getting automated in the sales and marketing using the CRM system. What happened was I had been working with Goldmine and ACT, and I found out about an online system called Infusionsoft. And I know some of them here, you all here know of it, but both my wife and I went out to get certified in it, and we were the first ones to do that at the time. And back in 2008-ish, I guess. So we were offered by them, didn't know the connection to Glacier Kennedy, but we're offered the most incredible free gift. And we took it. I found out there was a local chapter. I started going to it because I was looking for more marketing ideas for my clients and looking for ways for them to attract prospects. Basically, as it grew, things went along. I took over the chapter in Southeastern Mass, but I also expanded it to the North Shore of Boston and also on Cape Cod. So we had like 3 meetings at a time, so in a month. But we had a lot going on, and I think what it is here is that it gave these people a creative idea. They understood what was some of the most important things that they needed to do to make themselves stand out, like the unique selling proposition, and I had one client that's in the medical industry, and they have a medical product, and they kept using the acronym ROSIE. So I'm like, and they're telling me about going to Las Vegas to the big medical trade show. So I go, okay, I'm going to create some emails for you. So I created these emails that said, we all know that when you go to Vegas, whatever you do or say in Vegas stays in Vegas. Like, you can come back and tell everybody about Rosie. And they're like, oh, no, we can't be doing things like that. I said, try it. Of course, I toned it down a little bit. So I said to them, and these are all ideas that come from Dan Kennedy and so forth, being creative, coming up with something. And so after the show, I met with them again, and I said, so how did it go? Did anybody walk into the booth looking for Rosie? Oh, yeah, we got a bunch of people doing that. So I said, that's what I told you would work. I really thought people would not want to do that. I said, well, guess what? So that's what, boomed their sales, because people were coming in to see Rosie. So it's all a matter of getting this information, putting it together, and being creative, and also being, again, even with that USP, the unique selling proposition. What is it that's going to differentiate you from everybody else that's your competitor? And what can you offer that makes it really unique? And that's what's happened. So that's how I got involved, and I met all you here online today, and we just kept moving along. So
awesome. Well, I got involved with the LA area GKIC. In fact, we were Glendale, Pasadena GKIC, and another person had actually bought the chapter. But after a month, after his first meeting, he realized he couldn't run it on his own, and he didn't know as much as I did when I attended this first meeting. I'd been a student of Dan since 1992, and I found Dan at Peter Lowe's event, could not even afford the Magnetic Marketing Toolkit at that time, got all the previous after-event mailings, found Dan's book, Ultimate Marketing Plan, in a barrel in a Bucka bookstore in Boston, Mass. And that's when I started following him. And then I got Jeff Paul's letter in the mail, make $4,000 a day sitting in your underwear at a kitchen table, and yada, yada, yada. So in 2007, I had just lost a ton of money in real estate. And I was like, my wife is like, you may have to go to Vegas and work for her cousin, Nick. And I was resolved to that. But then I got this invitation to go to a local chapter meeting, which I had been waiting for forever, to come to LA after announcing in the newsletter, right? And this guy, Ramon, says, yeah, we're putting all the details going. If you know anybody, please bring them. So I sent an email out to my entire list of friends and from different organizations, and some people said, don't email me about this stuff anymore. And then some people said, I'll be there. So I ended up bringing like 8 people to that meeting. And Ramon, the IBA at that time, said, hey, thanks for bringing all these people. Could I take you out for coffee after the event? And so immediately following that, discussion became, how'd you like to be my director? And because I run another business and I don't have time to do it, I'll pay you. And I became the voice of the chapter. So eventually he goes, why don't I just sign the chapter over to you? So that was in 2007. And so I had the fortunate experience to just have it signed over to me. I didn't have to put a deposit down. Still had to pay the $600 a month to GKIC, but offset by the commissions and all that stuff. But it was the Glendale, Pasadena GKIC, and people have this myth. Glendale is literally 10 minutes away from me, but there's a pass that you have to go over, and people don't want to go that far. 10 minutes. So I said, why don't we call it the LA area GKIC? And Howard just said, sure, sure. So I was the only IBA for that period of time for as long as I did. Listen, we're running low on time. We may go over 30 minutes, but what I want to end here is Bill Glazer specifically says, you know, he gets this response and we have all received it ourselves. But Craig, my business is different. So for the people watching or listening to this podcast, what unique business did you do business with that people said, this stuff will never work in our business? So let's go around, be quick because we have to wrap up. But Steve, let's start with you. You're first in my eyes. What business did you work with that someone said, no way, no shape, no, it's not going to work, but you made it work?
You know, you put me on the spot with that, so I can't name a specific industry, but I can tell you how many people thought that just their business is different. So not like in general, but so many people closed-minded, like you said, I don't want it, don't email me about this stuff. And or Dan, you know, who, as Chuck said, repels to attract, so rubs people the wrong way.
Right.
And so a lot of people, I don't want to talk about that guy. I don't want to talk about you. I don't want to talk about that. Who cares? Whatever. So let's find someone who wants it.
Yeah. Dan, can you think off the top of your head or just name a few different types of businesses that aren't common marketers of their thing?
Well, the one that kind of jumps out at me, Craig, is a chiropractor that contacted me. He was in Chicago and he was moving to Indiana, and he was going to open his chiropractor office in Amish country in Indiana. Had never lived there and wanted some help marketing, and drove all the way to Cleveland for my mastermind meetings. Helped him get started in January, and in 1 year, I was able to help him take that business from zero to $2.1 million. And a lot of people said, "Oh, that won't work. That won't work. It's in Amish country. You don't have any media to work with there. You know, they don't have TV. They don't have internet. They don't have social media." Well, we made it work. 2.1 million in 1 year. And then the other one, real quick, that I'll mention is an attorney that I was recommended not to work with because they have so many rules and restrictions on what they can and can't do. In fact, Dan Kennedy is one of the people that said, "I wouldn't do it if I were you, but if you're going to do it, charge him an outrageous amount of money so he respects you." And I did, and he said, "Wow, you charge more than me." And I told him, "That's because I'm worth more than you are." And we did it, and to Joe's point, we did something a bit outrageous. To his credit, he trusted me. And the day his ad came out, he got calls from about 6 different attorneys complaining, saying he couldn't do that. And he panicked and called me, and I said, "Well, we know it's working. It's getting people's attention." And it helped him go from struggling to a practice that just expanded to where he needed to bring a partner on.
Awesome. Excellent example. Becky, 1 minute. Tell us unique business that you work with where they said, "But it's my business is different. It won't work for me."
Yeah, my partner in the restaurant was one of them. I said, "Listen, the only way I'm going to come in and do this restaurant, because it was a Japanese steakhouse and sushi bar, is if you don't question anything about what I do with the marketing, and I'll handle it from there. You go run the restaurant." And we ended up agreeing to that. And, you know, it just was a massive success. So I would say people generally, and I'm with Dan too, in the fact that people, like I work with a divorce mediator who wants leads to get into the financial planning, but there's all this compliance BS and so on. So it works in any industry, and you just have to prove it to them. I mean, for the examples that we all have now in our back pockets, because we've worked with different industries, some of us have niched down, but I kind of like the challenge of working with the different industries. People just don't believe it's going to work. I had a business owner. This is probably my biggest success. He was a restaurant owner 2 blocks from where I had my restaurant, and his SBA guy who gave him the loan, the banker, referred him to me because he didn't want to lose the loan. And he permits me to tell the story, but he was 1.8 million on the SBA loan, 300,000 friends and family, and he had about 2 weeks until he was going bankrupt. And he came to me and said, "Can you help me?" And I said, I can if you do exactly what I tell you, and it may already be too late to be saved. And he was just so good for everybody out there. If any of us ask you to do something, there's a reason behind it, because we know that it's going to work, but you actually have to listen and you actually have to implement. And he saved his restaurant, and we got a list of 5,000 names right before COVID. And he did everything I told him to do. And when you do that as a coach, like you're like, yes, they're actually doing what I tell them. And so that was my biggest success. He got a list of, people. He stayed open during COVID. He did short videos. Everything that I told him to do, he did. So it works in any industry. You just have to listen and you have to implement.
Awesome. Richelle, real quick, business that didn't think it would work in their business, but it did.
Well, of course, I was GKIC's Woman Marketer of the Year, and all because I helped an OBGYN. Right. Your business has got to be either easier than selling a pap smear, because no woman ever wakes up and says, I can't wait to have a pap smear today.
Or Googling it.
Or Googling what a pap smear is. Yeah. Women definitely know. An annual thing that happens in your hoo-ha. So we took him from 384,000 to 1.2 million using Dan Kennedy style marketing. He was one of those that emailed me in the middle of the night, begging to work with me, saying, I read in this book that you're here in my area. Please, will you please, baby, please. I'm used to getting those. So I ignored it the first couple of times. Gotcha. And then, we took him in and we changed the world. So awesome. Your business cannot be that hard.
Awesome. Ben, quickly, because we're running out of time, tell us a business that didn't think it would work for them, but it did.
Yeah, and I can't take credit for introducing this person, Jen Kennedy, but I got to work with her, and I think it's a great out-of-the-box example, but that's someone who was a hand analyst and applied all of the Kennedy-style marketing to her business. So I had the opportunity to work with her on all of the implementation of that, and that was a great example to give to anybody who did say, oh, this couldn't work in my business. I'm like, well, if it's going to work for hand analysis, it can work for you.
Awesome. Joe, a business that didn't think it would work for them, but it did.
I actually gave an example in the beginning here when I first started, and that is the medical company. They sold this equipment. The acronym was ROSI. And I turned around and I took it at a different angle. They said, oh, that's not going to work. And, this, you can't do this. And I said, let's just try it. And that's what it made it work. And that's all because of what I, got from Dan Kennedy and Bill Glazier. Awesome. And that's really what it's all about. And this was business to business, going to doctors and lab technicians and, nurses and people in the purchasing or wherever in the side of the hospital. So this was just, a different approach, and it made them look unique because they had a couple of competitors at the show.
Right. Excellent. Chuck, very quickly, business that didn't think they could.
Way Fashion, their competitors Forever 21. They sell flimsy garments to young women. So you can imagine me writing copies about 6 thongs for $15 to this list. It was really fun. He had a bad list, and I got him to pay his employees 50 cents a name to build the list. And he says, I'm already paying him. Why should I do it? I said, just try it. 60 days later, he has a list of 2,700, and then the rest was all history.
Awesome. Mark, quickly, a business that didn't think they could, but they could.
Sure. In the industry that I came from, the disc jockey industry for weddings and other events, what made me really stand out quickly was the fact that I did long form copy and more copy based marketing and advertising rather than image based. And interestingly enough, in my first group, I had about 100 or so DJs on a conference call for my first coaching call. And somebody mentioned, is this going to work for DJs? Like, we need to have a colorful logo, and we need to have beautiful brides and imagery and things. And I really just told them, hey, what got you here? And then he said, well, there was this postcard you mailed me. And it was a postcard that had full of copy, front and back, with teaser copy and everything on it. Exactly. And then what happened when you responded to that? He's like, you sent me this book and a 20-page sales letter. I said, exactly, it works. And then I went and showed them how I did that in the DJ industry, showing them the same postcard, a 6x11, full of copy front and back, that I sent to corporations, and a different version to schools and institutions that filled my calendar. And ever since then, they were just like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Awesome. You know, my favorite is I have a lot of great unique ones, but one specific is a vendor to the concrete industry, creates washout bins for concrete trucks and job sites. And what we did was we created a personality driven marketing campaign, emails on a regular basis, jib jabs and things like that. And funny enough, we were at a trade show in Vegas at World of Concrete, and somebody out of the blue said, "Hey, Les." And they're like, "Yeah, do I know you?" And he goes, "I get your emails." He goes, so he identified him right from all the emails and everything like that. And he went from 500,000 to 1.7 million. It took a couple of years because he has a little bit, my customers won't go for that. We don't do that, but we're still working together after 8 years. So it's still doing a good job. So, hey, listen, everybody, I want to thank you for being here today on this episode, our kickoff episode of the most incredible marketing show ever. And I want to thank everybody watching or listening for joining us for this episode. We have new episodes available every Thursday.
Thank you for joining us this week on the most incredible marketing show ever. New episodes are available every week on Thursdays. To receive a free gift pack from our expert panelists and get access to show notes from previous episodes, be sure to visit our website, www.mostincrediblemarketingshowever.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and click the bell up in the right-hand corner to be notified of future episodes so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you clicking the like button and leaving a comment on what big aha you got during the show. That's it for today's episode. See you next week.